begin our program, we now invite the Honorable Consul for Barbados and Jamaica, Mr. Winston Bailey, to give his address, which will surely guide, inspire, and uplift the next generation of Caribbean leaders. Please give him a welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? All right. It's a privilege and pleasure to be here this morning because in addition to doing the duties of honorary consul, my presence here, I went to Harrison College. Please don't ask dates, but I did go, and my son went to Campion College. So we have a bond here. I'm happy to be associated with an effort such as this. As you look around and you see this unity within our island, within the Caribbean, the world, we need activities like these to really bind us together. And this is such one. I want to congratulate all those responsible for organizing such a getting together, and surely they can only bear well as we go forward. So I want to say that in whatever way the consulate can work with the teams from Barbados and Jamaica, we will really need our take. But only this morning I got a call at the office somehow, and the voice simply said, very plaintively, "What do I have to do to visit Barbados?" So I said, "Do you know Caribbean Airlines? Well, that's all you need. A ticket and come down." And she said, "Also?" I said, "Yes." And I sort of added in that we need no visa. But the quiet enthusiasm that I heard on the phone, I also told her, as I tell them in jest sometimes, what you need to take is an extra swimsuit, because the sun is so white and the sea so blue. You want to live in there, and you want swimsuit window. That usually evokes a laugh. And so they go on. But on a more serious note, all the CARICOM meetings are trying to get unity, more participation, more visits. I think you know now that some islands can visit each other without a visa. Quite a few, if not. And freedom of movement and really sort of strengthening the ties. You know, I looking around at the young men. I left home in 1960, now you know my age, to come to Jamaica. The airport was flooded with my relatives and friends. They all expected me to return, but alas, that didn't happen. And when I was returning, I graduated, and when I was returning, I had a few people at the airport to see me off, and I came to make my own in Jamaica. But I want to big up Jamaica. I've had wonderful times, the usual, some down times, and to say that Barbados welcomes such initiatives. Please come, all of you. I'm sure you've made special friends that you will keep in touch with throughout your life. And you would say, so any movement like that helps us out, we are associated. So I think I've spoken long enough, and I just want to say once more, warmest congratulations to the organizers at Campion, and also Harrison College. And I hope it grows and expands, and I hope that we will be a unit to be reckoned with, even more so as time goes by. Thank you all so much.
Can we thank the council once again with a rounding? To continue this dialogue and inspire further reflection, we now invite Dr. Corbin, the head of the delegation for Harrison College, to come and give his address. Let's make him welcome.
Okay. Good morning, sorry, afternoon. Protocol being established. I want to start off with a little bit of a joke. And having conversations with the three Bajan guys that I just met, we all recognize that one of the things that has drawn us to Jamaica, we come here to study, then we meet someone, and then we don't leave. Thinkable. Right, so it's my great pleasure to address you at the culmination of this wonderful Campion Harrison College Student Exchange. It's been a tall task to get us here, but it has been fruitful and rewarding overall. I want to give everybody who's here I want you to give yourselves a round of applause, because it is for you that we are here. I bring our principal, Mrs. Kaylin Cameron-Holder, and our deputy principal, Dr. Martin Alain. They say they are blessed that they were able to come over, and they wish to see you guys over in Barbados coming soon. So remember, this is an exchange. We just didn't come here to see you. Come and see us as well. We will welcome you with open arms. Now, a person once asked me, what's the difference between motivation and inspiration? And I pondered on this for a while. And it came to me that motivation drives you to act. But inspiration drives you to dream. At this summit today, I want you to be both motivated as well as inspired. Inspired in seeing and hearing the different things that we face and coming together to have an action to counter those problems. But more than everything else, I want you to understand that we are in this together. That we are not separate people on separate islands and different places within the Caribbean. But the problems that affect Jamaica also affect Barbados. And we as a people, as a Caribbean people, have the creativity, the drive, and the intellect to solve those problems. So be inspired by this summit and also be motivated to do something about these things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Corbin, for reminding us to be motivated and inspired. To continue, actually to close this section of our program, I now invite the former chairman of the board of Campion College, Mr. Anton Thompson, to give his address. Please welcome him.
Mr. Bailey, the Honorary Consul of Barbados in Jamaica, Dr. Corbin, the head of delegation from Harrison College, Mr. Henry, our principal here at Campion, the staff and the team here at Campion, and those who are also part of the team from Harrison College, students of Campion and Harrison College, and other students here this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Let me say at the very outset how happy I am that this project has continued. I've been in full support of it from the very start, some years ago when Harrison College came to Campion, and when we returned to Barbados. At that time, our then principal, Mrs. Grace Baston, led the delegation. I find that this is extremely important in the building of the character and the integrity and knowledge base of our students, because we need to have a regional perspective as to who we are and where we want to take our countries. The students at Campion and the students at Harrison College will form an important part of the leadership cadre of Jamaica and Barbados, and for that matter, of the Caribbean in the years to come. And it's, as a consequence of that, we have to prepare them properly, not only with 10 or 12 CXC subjects, but also with a knowledge of who they are and who the region that they form part of, the region they contribute to, and the region that is forming them is. So therefore, I think that this is an important exercise. I'd like to add as well that I hope that the delegations will take the time, both of them, from Barbados and from Jamaica, will take a time after this week of activities to reflect on what has taken place and to share those reflections with each other, because that will be important in making these experiences, or shall I say, improving these experiences as they continue. And continue they must. And I want to see them expanded to include other countries and other schools. We need an organization to do that, and of course it will be tight, but the fact of the matter is it is part of the formation. I'm very happy to see Barbados here. I have a slight connection with Barbados. My mother's closest friend was Barbadian, and she was a nurse, and she was not only the only bridesmaid at my mother's wedding, but she was also present when I was born, and my sisters and my brother. So essentially, and I knew her very, very well. She left Jamaica and eventually went to other countries and eventually ended up in a high position in Barbados. And the last time I went to Barbados was for her funeral, as a matter of fact. But the truth is that I've had that connection with Barbados ever since I was born, since the Barbadian voice was a voice that I heard first of all. So I have that little connection with Barbados, and I want to welcome you here to Jamaica. I hope that the stay that you've had here, whichever little problems you have had, would have been useful, and that you would have enjoyed it, and that you will feel the urge to return. I know our students, when they went, feel that urge to go back to Barbados. I look forward to the presentations on this summit this afternoon. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for those wise words and expressing your continued support for this program. Can I have another round of applause for all our speakers? Thanks to each of you for taking your time to be here and give guidance and wisdom to the next generation. As we continue our program, I now invite students from Harrison College, Ashraya Waith and Tate Waterman, to present a song called How Many More?
Good afternoon, everyone. early this morning to the sounds of crying. Another mother shedding her tears. Oh, why all the pain and suffering? Why all the senseless killing? Could it be that nobody cares? Oh no. So many sons are lost in this slaughter, blood running in the streets like water. Can you tell me when will it end? So many thoughts and too much connection, too many big shots in Babylon system. Can you tell me when will it end? How many more jobs must carry this load? How many more jobs before we trot down Zion Road? Sing why-yo, 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 down Zion Road. How many more jobs must carry this load? How many more jobs before we trot down Zion Road? How many more? Won't you hear my plea? I'm on a bended knee. How many more? How many more? How many more? I said I rose up early this morning to the sounds of crying, another mother shedding her tears. How many more jobs must carry this load? How many more jobs before we track down Zion Road? Thank you.
Audience, did we enjoy that very moving performance? Can we give them another massive round of applause? So now we are moving into the meat of the matter, the presentations. We move into the portion of the program where our students have prepared very tirelessly and are ready to present on some of the most pressing pressing issues in the Caribbean.
So, each presentation has 2 Campionites and 2 Harrisonians. And under our theme, Caribbean Youth, Bridging Borders, Building Futures, these students have combined their talents, perspectives, and school pride to produce a presentation that reflects both innovation and teamwork.
To begin, I now invite Adriel Baird and Trace Skeffers from Harrison and Joshua Walcott and Abraham Waugh from Campion to present on the topic, Collaborative Caribbean Innovation in STEM, a path to regional problem solving. Please welcome them as they prepare to speak.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have been charged with the topic of collaborative Caribbean innovation in STEM. Collaborative Caribbean innovation is a process where nations across the region join forces to pioneer new solutions. By strategically pooling their resources, knowledge, and talents, they are able to tackle complex challenges that extend beyond the capacity of any single island. For years, Caribbean economies have become heavily dependent on tourism and imports, thus leaving them vulnerable to global shocks such as pandemics and climate-related disasters, which may disrupt tourism, trade, and the chains of supply. Despite this fact, as the world shifts towards knowledge and technology-driven development, regional collaboration in science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM, offers a way to diversify our economies. Institutions like the University of the West Indies, the Caribbean Science Foundation, and the Caribbean Climate Innovation Center have been at the forefront of this transformation. Moreover, UE industry partnerships in Trinidad and Tobago are turning research into market-ready innovations by testing new materials, manufacturing methods, and via the utilization of various forms of technology. Efforts by organizations like the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean and the Inter-American Development Bank show how regional talents and resources can enhance small economies through collaboration. Additionally, the economic impacts of collaborative STEM innovation in the Caribbean are steadily beginning to showcase themselves. In Jamaica, Tech Hub Jamaica is fostering growth in ICT startups, specializing in software development and fintech solutions. Barbados has most recently become home to Compete Caribbean, a program which fosters the development of the private sector through climate action, and this acts as a prominent catalyst in the assisting of 2,000 businesses and the creation of 12,000 jobs. By supporting these ventures with investment and policy support, the Caribbean is building a diversified, innovation-driven business landscape that enhances economic resilience and global competitiveness, therefore attracting a myriad of skilled youth back into the local and regional workforce. Beyond social benefits, these initiatives have the potential to transform the Caribbean economy by driving productivity, competitiveness, and export diversification. The Tech to Empower Caribbean program helps women-led NGOs and entrepreneurs develop both digital and STEM skills. This initiative fosters inclusivity and grows the skilled workforce, which is a crucial foundation for sustainable economic growth in the region. Strengthen policies and investments, including a Caribbean STEM Innovation Fund, tax incentives, and increased R&D budgets could stimulate job creation, attract foreign investment, and boost tech exports. Collectively, such measures would position the Caribbean as a hub for innovation-driven economic expansion and long-term regional prosperity. As Professor Cardinal Ward of the Caribbean Science Foundation states, innovation is not the privilege of large nations, it is the survival strategy of small ones. Thank you.
As a young Jamaican, I stand before you proud of our region's creativity, but also I'm deeply aware of the challenges that are currently holding us back. I've seen the struggles of inefficient waste collection, high energy costs, and outdated infrastructure, problems that plague the entirety of the Caribbean. We believe that leveraging STEM technology offers some of the most powerful solutions to tackle these issues effectively. Today, I want to highlight the current innovations, the successes we've seen, and why uniting across islands and expertise is crucial for building a stronger and more connected Caribbean. Let's begin with waste management, a challenge where smart technology and regional cooperation are already driving change. In Jamaica, the National Solid Waste Management Authority is transforming its operations using technological innovation. Garbage trucks are now working towards being GPS tracked, routines digitally optimized, and inspections photos geotagged to monitor efficiency. Soon enough, you will be able to report missed collections and illegal dumping in real time. This reduces delays, public health concerns, and keeps communities cleaner. This is innovation. But what's even more important is how we can inspire other Caribbean islands. Through the sharing of these systems and tools, we create a network of smarter, cleaner communities across the region. This is the essence of collaboration, local innovations with regional impacts. Another great example of an emerging area of collaborative technological innovation in the Caribbean is artificial intelligence. Across the Caribbean, AI is being used to improve everything from agriculture to disaster management. In Barbados, AI and digital technologies are transforming climate monitoring and disaster preparedness. The Ministry of Industry, Innovation, Science and Technology, as well as GovTech Barbados Limited, are leading efforts to use AI for modeling hurricane paths, tracking environmental changes, and supporting faster, data-driven decisions during natural disasters. These technologies help to predict hotspots, plan evacuation routes, and allocate emergency resources more effectively, protecting lives and communities. Through the sharing of these tools, local solutions become regional resources, allowing the Caribbean to respond to climate challenges more effectively through the collaborative use of AI between our islands. In St. Lucia, technological innovation drives marine restoration and coastal protection. Through CATS programs and Clear Caribbean, the SMMA uses drones, digital monitoring, and satellite imagery to track sediment runoff and coral restoration. These are the methods we use to prevent further reef degradation, protect fisheries, and safeguard coastal communities from erosion. This work demonstrates how STEM-driven technological innovation combines the collaboration between communities, can turn local solutions into strategies that strengthen climate resilience across the entirety of the Caribbean, a problem that we've been struggling with for years. And we've seen that technological innovation through STEM is the fix we need and we have been using to improve our societies. The future of innovation lies in our people. Programs like SPICE and STEAM Jamaica empower students to design robotics, IoT systems, and digital solutions for community problems, from smart energy management to environmental monitoring. The crux of these programs is that they are not isolated. They connect students across islands, fostering a spirit of collaboration and creativity. As young Caribbean nationals, it is up to us to take the lead. By working together, sharing knowledge, and innovating across our borders, we build a Caribbean that is strong, a Caribbean that is sustainable, and most importantly, a Caribbean that is ready for the trials and tribulations that lie ahead in our ever-changing society. Thank you.
scientific method is the systematic process of observation, experimentation, and analysis. Over the past decade, we've observed the unique regional struggles that attack the Caribbean. Rising temperatures, the increasing number of natural disasters, and the destruction of our coast. Meeting these struggles, there has been experimentation. Our local people are working hard, writing papers and testing new cutting-edge science with the goal of innovating solutions that address our local context. I believe the next step is analysis. Analysis of how we as independent Caribbean countries can collaborate to share information to build a stronger Caribbean. The first struggle I'd like to highlight is heat. Global warming has led to rising temperatures and more heat waves. Particularly within schools, heat has been shown to reduce educational outcomes, making it more difficult for students to concentrate and learn. Furthermore, traditional solutions like installing more ceiling fans and AC have been shown to be expensive and unsustainable as it drives up energy costs. Through experimentation, researchers at the University of the West Indies, Mona, investigated the use of phase change materials as a passive cooling solution for buildings. These materials reduce the need for air conditioning and lower electricity consumption. However, we believe more efforts could be made. The establishment of a Caribbean Science Board could greatly assist with recognizing the critical areas where investment needs to be directed into solving local problems. Another regional struggle experienced by Caribbean countries has been the invasion of Sargassum seaweed. Sargassum seaweed has been a consistent problem impacting Caribbean countries' coasts, tourism, and marine ecosystems. In small quantities, it is benign, acting as an ecosystem for tiny creatures. However, with the rising global temperatures, sargassum increased dramatically and is moving nearer on the shore. It has been demonstrated to block sunlight from coral reefs and smother seagrass. It harms economic activity as it tangles gear used for fishing, and its foul smell has been shown to disrupt tourism. Collaboration through the Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism has aimed to solve this issue through working with Barbados, Belize, Jamaica, and the Dominican Republic to create new potential projects from sargassum. Turning sargassum into innovative products is believed to create jobs and income, as well as contribute to building the region's climate resilience and mitigate the negative impacts of sargassum in the region. Lastly, scientific innovations can be applied in the medical sector. Barbados has been benefiting from medical tourism due to its
to see that when it's finished, but we need to support throughout the process, not only when it's already been developed. So if we have that sense of collaboration and creativity and sister and brotherhood between our islands that are so closely connected, the new ideas that are coming out of AI and medical advancements and being able to train teachers so that when you are emerging out of high school and going into university, you've already developed enough knowledge to be able to create
recreation is the largest and most established component of the blue economy, and it includes cruise shipping and marine recreation, while fisheries includes capture fisheries, which provides food security and livelihoods for some communities, like in countries such as Dominica and St. Kitts, as it allows for a source of income through selling to members of one's local community and provides a food source for one's family. Capture fisheries also serves as a source of export income for Caribbean countries via queenfish, conch, spiny lobster, tuna, and many more, which are exported by countries like Jamaica, Barbados, and Grenada, just to name a few. Another aspect of fisheries is aquaculture, a key growth area to reduce pressure on wild stocks. Projects under aquaculture focus on farming species like tilapia. This presentation will delve deeper into these sectors, ways to mitigate damage that's already been done, policy to protect what we already have, and finally, future sustainable practices.
Our marine ecosystems have suffered greatly from overfishing, pollution, and the pressures of tourism. Fishing boats sometimes take more than the oceans can replenish, and waste from coastal areas often finds its way into the sea, harming coral reefs and the marine life that depend on them. In many tourism zones, activities like boating, diving, and the careless disposal of plastics also threaten that fragile life. Tourism increases the demand for seafood because visitors want fresh fish year-round. But this often leads to more overfishing of species which should be left to replenish themselves. Beyond that, in some coastal areas, fishers compete with tourist activities for space and resources, which puts even more strain on our oceans. Both industries need to thrive, yes, so it is manage fishing responsibly and ensure that tourism supports instead of depletes. Rather than focusing only on the harm, though, we should focus on education and implementing future legislations as a powerful tool for change. Both tourists and locals do need to understand how even small actions can affect our ocean's health. For example, the type of sunscreen we use seems harmless, but many common brands contain chemicals that greatly damage our coral reefs. Across the Caribbean, governments have also introduced seasonal bans catching specific types of marine life, like juvenile fish, reproducing females, and sea eggs, during times when populations are most vulnerable. These bans give species time to grow, breed, and repopulate, keeping our fisheries sustainable overall. But these measures only succeed when everyone follows them. That's why public education is so important. When people understand why certain fish should not be caught or bought out of season, they are more likely to respect the regulations. Some islands even go further by issuing fines to both fishers and consumers who ignore these restrictions, emphasizing that protecting the ocean is everyone's responsibility. Supporting our fisheries is a major part of this. When we eat what we catch locally, we know the quality, the freshness, and the origin of our food. It supports our fisheries, strengthens local economies, and reduces the dependence on imported seafood. That's why many Caribbean nations are now setting up policies and initiatives to strengthen local fisheries, empower small fishers, and promote sustainable use of our marine resources. In doing so, we're not only improving food security, but also rebuilding pride in our own products, a key principle of the blue economy. Thank you.
Efforts Efforts like these are strengthened by with the United Nations Responsible Consumption and Production. Caribbean governments have taken decisive steps to safeguard marine life and ecosystems. These policies go beyond simply protecting species from overfishing. Across the region, many islands have banned harmful fishing methods such as use of explosives, firearms, or bottom trawling. Where bottom trawling has not been completely outlawed, it is strictly regulated around coral reef and coastal zones due to its devastating effect on the seafloor, stripping it of all life and vegetation. Furthermore, individuals or companies found engaging in techniques, dumping waste, or otherwise disturbing the seabed now face substantial degradation of mangrove ecosystems. Vital, yet often overlooked, natural defenses. Mangroves shield our coastlines, nurture biodiversity, and act as powerful carbon sinks. In Jamaica, for instance, there are ongoing efforts to restore the mangroves along the south coast in Clarendon, where they have been severely diminished. In the same spirit, governments have introduced stricter measures to protect marine areas. Across the Caribbean, such legislation is becoming increasingly common as the blue economy rises to political prominence. Long-standing conservation areas, such as marine parks, continue to play a central role in these efforts. These zones prohibit fishing, boating, or any form of pollution, serving as sanctuaries for marine life. One example is the Folkestone Marine Park in Barbados, established in 1981 to preserve the surrounding reefs and provide a nesting place for turtles. Similarly, protected areas can be found throughout the region, including Orcabeza Bay in Jamaica and Point Sable Environmental Protection Area in St. Lucia. However, many of these parks face challenges due to limited resources, leading to lapses in enforcement and diminishing the efficiency or effectiveness of these well-intentioned policies. To address this, and in support of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 14, Life Below Water, Barbados established the Marine Spatial Planning Unit, responsible for zoning, monitoring, and managing the island's marine space. Under the visionary leadership of the Honorable Mia Moore-Motley, Barbados became the first country in the world to create a Ministry of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy, a pioneering step that institutionalized ocean governance and placed the marine sector at the core of national development. Her administration further introduced blue bonds, valued at approximately $50 million US, designed to attract investment in marine conservation and climate resilience. Initiatives like these are paving the way for a prosperous and sustainable future, one that recognizes the ocean not just as a backdrop of beauty, but as our greatest natural asset. Yet, the true measure of our success will depend on our ability to sustain these efforts. We must ensure that the progress we build today becomes the foundation for generations to come. Thank you.
Sustainability, as defined by the United Nations, is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Because the blue economy plays such an integral role in the fabric of Caribbean identity, it is vital that we, Caribbean nationals, take the necessary steps to maintain these resources for future generations. This critical future planning can be done, firstly, by building intra-regional fishing and trade agreements between CARICOM member states, and by forming public-private agreements to ensure the longevity of these marine resources. Firstly, forming fishing cooperatives on a regional scale has the potential to significantly increase the profitability of the fishing industry in the Caribbean. By allowing fishers to share resources across the region and by giving them the ability to gain higher market prices for their goods, nations will receive significant economic stimulus and diversification. Governments interested in maintaining this vibrant sector must then push to regulate the exploitation of our regional fisheries, ensuring that our marine resources are used and extracted in a way that large and diverse fish populations remain for the future generations. Currently, in Barbados, there's an ice factory where fishers can refrigerate their fish rather than freeze it to gain maximum profitability for their goods, as fresh fish are more valuable than frozen. Additionally, several CARICOM members have implemented a policy whereby fishing vessels and associated parts can be imported duty-free. These highlight efforts to maintain and influence growth and sustainability within the blue economy. Yet, there is more to be done. Additionally, the formation of public-private partnerships between key stakeholders within the realm of the blue economy, such as hoteliers, fishers, and those involved in shipping and trade, would be extremely beneficial to ensure the longevity of this sector. Multilateral agreements between the government, the public, and private partners can aid in ensuring the protection, sustainable use, and management of the maritime resources of each nation. especially because the Caribbean has largely shifted its economic focus towards the tertiary sectors. Maintaining our coasts will allow these economies to achieve success in the long run. By involving persons in various industries, governments will be able to draft and enact holistic legislation to adequately protect these ecosystems and mitigate against the threats caused to them by tourism, shipping, logistics, and poor fishing practices. These measures can and will be effective in maintaining the blue economy and highlighting the importance of these resources for the future. In conclusion, the blue economy is extremely important, not only for the current economic and social realities in the Caribbean, but also for the future of the region. If we want a sustainable future for our blue economy, we must preserve and restore, through policy, enforcement, research, and development, our precious oceans and their biodiversity. Our coasts are an intrinsic part of our history and culture. Thus, they will continue to shape the growth and development of the Caribbean society once we use these resources sustainably. Thank you.
Let us thank our presenters for highlighting the importance of the blue economy. We're going to move into the Q&A session for this presentation. It will be the same as before.
Hi, my name is Ciara Rathwaite, and I'm from Harrison College. In your speech, you mentioned the Barbados Spatial Marine Planning Unit. I wanted to know how spatial planning would ensure the sustainable use of marine resources.
Okay, one of the most challenging parts of properly regulating an area is having a cohesive idea of what each sector or area is for. So when this unit is enacted, it will properly oversee, dissect, and ensure that sectors that they say give to tourism or give to conservation or give to fishing are used for those purposes, as opposed to having conflicting ideas and ultimately leading to the failure of these initiatives that we're trying to put forward.
Hello, my name is Javian Ramdeen, and I'm from Kingston College. My question is, most of the examples you've given us are stuff that the government can do. I want to know, what can I as a youth do, or even my school do, to help along with these projects and keep it?
Okay, hi. Beyond the blue economy, whenever it comes to matters like this where we get youth summits, I feel like outside of maybe being selected by your teachers or your peers, there really isn't a lot of knowledge, or a lot of people don't know that the summit is happening, and so we can't get a lot of people coming to look and actually educating themselves. When it comes to a lot of matters, frankly, I feel like the best way to educate persons or to educate a generation on a whole is to go to the youngest of the youth, if that makes sense. What we can do in our age range is making sure that we take time out of our schedules to go and educate our younger children on specific matters like this, which will end up affecting them in the future. Because at the end of the day, yes, there's stuff that we can do, but they're the ones who are going to really set the standard and continue it on throughout. You understand what I mean? Okay.
Hi. And also to add to what Serenity said, as the youth, we have to realize, as we said in our speeches, the blue economy is an important sector in the past, now, and going into the future. And as students and the younger generation, we literally are the future, and our children are the future. We're making a future for our children. So I feel like the way in which we could contribute to this conversation, actually make a change, is by firstly opening up more forums and space to discuss things of this nature. I feel like even when we talk about STEM, a lot of the times, thank you. Even when we talk about STEM, a lot of the times we'd be looking at things like renewable energy, but I feel like there is somewhat of a stigma around jobs that have to do in this sector, such as fishermen. Some people in the Caribbean, a lot of people in the Caribbean actually see fishermen as being the lower persons in society for the job that they do. And they don't actually realize that they're the backbone and the foundation for our culture as Caribbean people and for our economies as Caribbean people, because they're focusing more on the more, how do I say this, romanticized versions of our economy and of the different sectors and industries in our economy, because they think that that's a lower class thing to do. So I feel like as the youth, we not only need to be more sensitized to issues like this so that we can actually open ourselves up to viewing these jobs and this sector with the respect that it actually deserves, but we also need to open more forums online, such as in spaces like social media, where we can talk about these issues and actually bring attention to them and view them as just as important as our colleagues said previously, such as like STEM issues, because the blue economy still is very important going forward, even in this new era of AI and technology. Especially in the Caribbean, it's a very integral sector, as we said, and we still need to open up space for it. So that's how I think as youth we can open up more room for the blue economy and actually put more emphasis on it and further the blue economy. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jade Hutchinson from the Wilmots Boys School. The second speaker had mentioned that fines are there to stop overfishing and fishing in the off-season. I just wanted to know if you think that fines would be enough to curb this issue, seeing that if you have a big company that, you know, probably wants to fish in the off-season or to overfish or whatnot, they would just pay off the fine knowing that they would make by the money. So I wanted to know if fines are the only way or the most effective way to curb this issue.
Can you repeat the question, please? I got lost in transit there. He was asking me if like fines were enough.
Yeah.
I don't think fines are enough, but I do think that they're a good start, because even though they may not have as much as an impact on like those bigger companies, they will have a lot of impact on the smaller fishermen who use that as like their day-to-day. If you're putting a heavy fine on catching a fish, and these fishermen go, then like when they have to pay that fine, it like greatly impacts how much they can put like into supporting their families and so on. Even beyond the fishermen, like when it comes to consumers and being fined, if you go out and you see a fish like parrotfish, for example, that you know that you're not supposed to eat, and the moment you go and eat them, you're dropped with like $1,000, that's greatly like inconveniencing you. So even though I think that fining isn't like the only step you can take or the only step that should be taken, like I said, I heavily believe that educating everybody is like the best option. It definitely is a start, because yes, there are the big companies, but like we can't only look at the big companies, because the big companies do not make up our whole population.
Just to add to what Serenity said, although we can clearly say that, you know, fines are not the most effective measure for big companies. She said it's a start. The real crux of the matter, what we need to focus on now, we implement the fines, we must enforce them. The regulation must be stricter for larger corporations, larger companies. There should be a system of fines whereby you are taxed, you are fined based on how much you earn, how much revenue you are drawing from this fishing, how much contribution this fishing is to your livelihood, right? So I'm not saying that we need to, you know, tax the small man $10,000 because he caught 2 baby fish. What I'm saying is we need to be more stringent in the enforcement of the rules that we have set in place, because that's the real issue. We have the laws, we have the legislation. The government now is tasked with actually strictly enforcing the rules they set in place.
And also to finally add to that point, As Nicholas mentioned, with policy and legislation, it's not only just these policies and legislation, but it's also enforcing them. So going beyond the fines, which I think is a great start, and I think Kira covered it very nicely. I think that especially with these larger corporations, they could be so rich that they could just pay off any fine, is almost what you were hinting at with your question. I feel like in also being stricter with the legislation and how we enforce legislation, at some point we need to draw the line where we say, if you cross a certain point, then you just cannot fish anymore. Because these companies, especially these foreign companies, they could be so rich, so wealthy that they could pay off any fine, even if we're trying to tax them based on what they tell us they're making from this fishing and this overfishing they're doing. So at some point I also think the government can say that at a certain point, if you overfish to a certain extent, instead of just giving these companies a fine, we're going to say that this company cannot even conduct this fishing for the next 2 years, the next 2 to 4 years. And even stricter, we could say this company just cannot conduct this service anymore in Jamaica itself. Thank you.
Just a general question. I'm also from the Women's Boys High School. I'm Kyle Kamika. In terms of pirating, and the illicit fishing that often occurs in the Caribbean, what is the impact that has on the blue economy, in your opinion?
Thank you for that question. So that is a legitimate concern. Oftentimes what happens, there are unregulated, unauthorized fishing trawlers, deep sea trawlers that go offshore in the Caribbean Sea and the surrounding water bodies that they extract far more than they should, and far more than they are legally allowed to. So I think your question was how real a concern this is. It's a very real concern because it does happen, right? Because fishing, the thing with the fisheries is that it's extremely limited. It's gotten to a point where our resources now have become so depleted that simply removing, let's say, 2 tons of fish can negatively affect the livelihoods, the economies, the food security of a nation. So we must be stricter, we must be more willing, the governments, the region must be more willing to actually go out and enforce and police our waters to prevent the illegal and illicit fishing, from multinational corporations.
Just to add to what Kira said, in also increasing the security in these areas, we could also focus on the type of fish that we're actually allowing them to collect. So let's say we increase security to the point where they have to be authorized to even leave our waters with the fish that they have collected. A good example of something that's taking place right now in Jamaica, you guys know as Jamaicans, we love to eat a lot of parrotfish, especially when we go to the beach. A lot of the fishermen out at the beaches, they've actually started substituting parrotfish for lionfish. So I feel like we could even, if we are able to improve the security to this level, we could even say, okay, we give them the alternative. You can fish in this area because lionfish is an invasive species, which is also why it's even better for us to direct them towards this species. So, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. So I feel like in also almost only giving them access to this area while still being heavily secured, we also can look into the types of fish that they're collecting in these large batches and ensuring that it's the type of fish that that the government is actually allowing them to collect. And the parrotfish, lionfish substitution is a good example of killing 2 birds with 1 stone and regulating the type of fish they're collecting. Thank you.
Audience, just please note that there are very limited questions. So if you wish to ask a question, you have to speak up early because we have a limited time slot for Q&A. So now we're only taking 2 more questions. And teachers, you all are also welcome to ask any questions that you may have. It is not only limited to the students. So I just let you know. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Andy Toppin. I am a teacher at Harrison College. My question, The idea of a blue economy has within its definition a crucial limitation. It limits the discussion to the economy. Are all Caribbean territories equally committed to maritime protection, even if their economy is not dependent on the quality of marine life?
Thank you for that question, sir. Unfortunately, the answer is no, because, as you said, the blue economy, is not, because our maritime resources, they're not, it's not equally distributed all across the Caribbean. There is, greater dependence, for example, in Belize to regulate the maritime resources than in another country, maybe Jamaica, for example, because it contributes so greatly to their economy and to a lesser extent to ours. However, it should not be a case where each country, gets to regulate it independently. We must, like this summit, we must all integrate and we must collaborate to develop a framework, develop a policy where we can all work together to protect the resources that don't only benefit one country, that don't only benefit one country, that benefit all of us, whether that portion is great, is small, medium size. We must protect our resources because in some way it all contributes to the Caribbean economy.
Afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, Blue Economy. In your presentation, I heard quite a bit about us protecting the marine life and punishing the fishermen for overfishing and damaging the reefs, etc., etc. I'm not sure if I heard anything about how we could help the people who work in the industry to do their jobs better, or how governments are helping us to recognize people who work in the industry as professionals or career people, protecting them maybe with health insurance. Did you find anything in your research that suggests that we have policies in the various Caribbean countries to protect the people who work in the industry?
Thank you for that question, Miss. So, in fact, there are policies, specifically in Belize, because fishing is, one of their main sources of revenue, economic, growth and development. They have formed fishing cooperatives. So these are, as I had stated in my presentation, these are groups of fishermen who work together, share resources, right? So what happens is they join these cooperations, and through these cooperations, they can apply to the government and they can receive benefits. They can receive stipends, they can receive pension funds upon their retirement. They also qualify for health insurance, life insurance, things like that. So there are policies in place in certain countries like Belize, but what needs to happen is we must integrate these policies on a regional scale. Thank you.
Ms. Kenny Folks, correct me if I'm wrong, but another aspect of your question towards the beginning was asking how the government or how the Caribbean could contribute towards actually protecting these persons like the fishermen. So another way in which we could do this, a way that I don't really think we're focusing on a lot because it is the blue economy, is we could also be a lot more strict when it comes down to pollution on land and how we dispose of our waste. Because recently, with all the rain in Jamaica, there's been a lot of flooding. And if you guys didn't know, the fishermen, a lot of the times it has to be the fishermen because it literally is their way of living. The fishermen have had to go out and clean up all the waste that's actually flooded from the land into the sea. So they've had to be cleaning up like people's fridges that were like floating out into the ocean and their garbage that they'd store. A lot of people live in the hills of Jamaica and they think that
the ditches on the side of the hill, they can just store all their garbage there, throw their waste there. And the rain has caused a lot of landslides to happen where that waste can find its way to the ocean. And I feel like if we're a lot more strict also on the policies when it comes on to pollution on land, that's another way to really help the fishermen in doing their job. Because even recently with the flooding, with the example with the flooding, the fishermen, a lot of them had to go out there and clean it up themselves, tons and tons of waste, because we're just not putting enough emphasis on this problem, and because it's not affecting us, we're not even thinking about how this waste is causing their lives to be adversely affected. So I also think we could put stricter policies on pollution on land. Thank you.
Okay, can we give another round of applause to our panel for the blue economy? Thank you, guys. You may return to your seats. To close this segment of our program, I now invite Aria Hill, Chloe James from Harrison, as well as Zahira McLean and Ariana Powell from Campion to present the final topic, the impact of globalization and social media on the retention and evolution of Caribbean culture. Please make them welcome.
Hello? Good afternoon, everyone. Defining Caribbean identity. What exactly is Caribbean culture and identity? Well, 3 simple words. Complex, dynamic, and distinctive can begin to describe Caribbean culture. Offering a single concrete definition of Caribbean identity is nearly impossible due to the diversity of our region. The Caribbean is an amalgamation of the historical and cultural contributions of African, European, Indigenous, Indian, and Chinese peoples. A region born out of cultural fusion and syncretism, creating something entirely unique in the world. While there is no fixed definition of what it means to be Caribbean, certain shared elements unite us: our colonial past, languages, religions, demographics, cuisine, and music, to name a few. However, culture is not just these tangible, overt aspects. Culture is also our norms, values, and our way of life. It is not just how we present ourselves and how we present ourselves, but how we view the world, how we interact with one another, and how we carry our beliefs and traditions. Culture is the lens through which we live. It is essentially the foundation of our society. But what happens when the ground beneath us begins to shake? Today, 2 of the strongest quakes threatening Caribbean cultural autonomy are globalization and social media. These forces, while offering connection and opportunity, also pose the risk of cultural erasure. In a world increasingly influenced by dominant Western narratives, there is a growing danger of cultural homogenization, where global trends overshadow local traditions. This makes it more critical than ever for Caribbean people to actively define, preserve, and promote their cultural identity. Without this strong cultural anchor, we risk disconnecting from our roots, and we are susceptible to adopting foreign norms at the expense of our own. As Marcus Garvey once said, a people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is evident in the quote previously stated by my colleague, Aria, our Caribbean culture affects one's perspective and individualism. Today, one of my points is social media's impact on self-identity. Firstly, what is self-identity? According to the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, self-identity is the way someone considers their characteristics as a particular individual, especially in relation to the social environment they work or live in. Humans are social beings born with the need to seek community and relationships with others. The global COVID-19 pandemic, however, placed a limit on how socializing could occur. As a result, social media was highly useful to Generation Z as it allows people to form global connections. This useful feature of social media grants the opportunity for younger generations to be better informed on different cultures. Consequently, new perspectives are adapted as people are exposed to different cultural and societal norms. As a result, our own Caribbean cultures and social norms are challenged. Although it is negative, closed-mindedness is a part of our Caribbean culture, as older generations may not be as open to accepting new perspectives. However, it can be argued that closed-mindedness is necessary for the retention of our culture. The challenging of these norms leads to the eventual dilution of our culture, as the younger generation of Caribbean people are more accepting of new ideas and also modify their self-expression depending on the current trend. This equates to Americanized Caribbean individuals. Therefore, this overexposure of social media impacts individualism and one's self-identity, as everyone aspires to be the same, which is the American standard portrayed by pop culture. This takes me to my next point: pop culture versus our culture. Pop culture is defined as the modern popular culture transmitted via the mass media and aimed particularly at younger people. In recent times, it can be seen that the younger generation is able to comfortably speak about things seen on social media but are unaware about what's happening in the region. This is due to multiple factors such as accessibility, as it does not take much for a person to open their phone and use one of the various social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Another factor is fascination, as it is easy to become entangled in the realm of illusion that is social media, whereas many perceive watching the news as a chore. According to Dr. Kristen Eddy, in the article, The Changing News Habits and Attitudes of Younger Audiences, it is reported that 34% of younger audiences say that the news negatively affects their mood. Additionally, social media is perceived as more fascinating than the news, as social media is algorithm-based. Therefore, social media platforms are able to curate content for individual users, including the news that we consume. However, younger generations tend to be more interested in the news of celebrities and sports rather than conventional news such as politics and economics. Although social media offers a distraction from the brutal realities of our region, it is essential that we are constantly educating ourselves. Additionally, the globalization of social media can lead to the homogenization of culture. This is a process where cultural diversity decreases as different cultures become more similar, driven by global influences like mass media. This is because the Western media has a dominant influence. Thank you.
Thank you, Sahara, and a good afternoon to everyone. Continuing from where my colleague left off, it is necessary to understand how this great influence of Western media negatively impacts us within the Caribbean. The large consumption of American media specifically results in today's youth wanting to emulate their culture and even attempt to live the American dream. However, in chasing after this dream, we lose our unique cultural identity. The issue of overexposure to American media is rooted in the fact that islands like Jamaica and Barbados have limited local shows that cater to younger audiences and educate them about their culture. Teenagers then begin to resonate more with international culture than their own. For example, they follow their manner of speaking, yet many of us living uptown in Jamaica do not have a proper mastery of Jamaican Creole. We keep up with the trends of American clothing, but the Jamaican bandana identify with it. Some teenagers are even ashamed of their own culture and will gladly renounce or slander it online for validation and acceptance instead of being proud of who they are, being proud of being Caribbean. In this way, we can see that the retention of our culture is little and fleeting, as sayings, dances, and traditions are being left behind by the youth and lost to time. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As my colleague Rihanna said, core aspects of our culture are being lost. Many of this is due to the commercialization of our culture to promote tourism. This leads me to my next topic, the commercialization of Caribbean culture through globalization. I want to start with a quote from Professor Anthony Boakes, who said that Caribbean culture is not a brand. Remember that. Since slavery, the Caribbean has relied heavily on single-sector economies, shifting from agriculture to tourism after World War II due to falling sugar prices and the rise of air travel. By the 1970s, tourism had become the region's dominant economic sector, now contributing to about a third of the Caribbean's GDP and employing a significant portion of its population. However, this dependence has led to the commercialization of our culture, as festivals like Carnival, Crop Over, and Mashlamani are increasingly shaped to attract tourists rather than to preserve its original meanings. For instance, Mashlamani in Guyana has been criticized for losing its post-independence symbolism to profit-driven motives, while Trinidad's Carnival has seen traditional characters such as Dame Lorraine, Pierrot Grenade, and Midnight Robber being replaced by flashy, feathered, bikini-style costumes for tourism appeal. Likewise, Jamaican folk music mento has been overshadowed by globally popular genres such as reggae and dancehall. Despite these challenges, there are efforts to reclaim cultural authenticity. The Jamaica Observer emphasizes that culture can thrive when the locals lead its expression. And the Jamaica Tourist Board has promoted community-based tourism to connect visitors with Jamaican traditions and support local economies. In order to avoid losing aspects of our culture, we must be able to flip the coin and use globalization and social media to our advantage. This brings me to my next point, the retention of Caribbean culture by showcasing them on social media. But first, what is social media? According to the Oxford Dictionary, social media is the websites and applications that enable users to create and share content or to participate in social networking. Modern examples include TikTok and Instagram. In an article written by Cheryl A. McLean, a study was conducted with young female Caribbean influencers. After analyzing the content that the women posted on their feeds, along with a study of the comments, it became clear, according to Ms. McLean, that the young women were using their platforms to design digital spaces where their culture could be accessed, consumed, and experienced by a diverse community of people. Whether that be via music, social and political commentary, or aspects of their personality. We all have heard the phrase, what goes on the internet stays on the internet. Therefore, by posting aspects of their lives on the internet, they unintentionally created a digital archive that lives on the internet forever. We too can work to preserve our culture by posting traditional artifacts, along with pictures and videos of old architecture, crop over costumes, and anti-conventions that were used commonly in the region. Thank you.
So, good afternoon again, everyone. As we can draw from my colleague's speech, social media has its positive impacts on the retention of Caribbean culture. My other point is that social media is vital in order to educate individuals worldwide about Caribbean culture. While I discussed its disadvantages, we must also acknowledge how social media can greatly influence the retention of Caribbean culture. One of the internet's greatest benefits is that information is right there at our fingertips. Therefore, understanding Caribbean culture is made possible through various social media platforms like Twitter or X that was previously mentioned, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and amongst many others. These social media platforms may then aid in the debunking, and clarification of any misconceptions or harmful stereotypes that surround Caribbean culture. Examples of such stereotypes include every Jamaican being a Rasta, or the fact that Caribbean individuals all live in huts down by the beach who drink coconut water every day. In this way, social media helps to decrease global ignorance about Caribbean culture. On the topic of Caribbean culture, this can be found worldwide due to migration. But the exodus of our Caribbean natives decreases their children's physical access to this rich culture. Social media then helps to alleviate this issue by providing accessibility to their home country, thus allowing them to continue to be educated and stay connected to their culture. Referring again to my colleague, she mentioned that social media allows for cultural preservation, and these preserved artifacts online can then be used to educate younger generations who are interested in learning about different cultures than their own. Caribbean organizations like CARICOM could also utilize social media to host webinars and workshops to further promote the education of Caribbean culture worldwide. Therefore, through providing platforms to educate individuals, social media not only promotes an understanding, a true understanding of Caribbean culture, but also a tolerance and respect for the culture globally. Thank you.
On the topic of the Caribbean worldwide, the Caribbean diaspora is a powerful way of promoting the spread of Caribbean culture. Our culture is not only alive within the Caribbean, but also thriving in countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada, which are home to large Caribbean communities. Diaspora members essentially act as cultural ambassadors, proudly representing their nations and keeping traditions alive abroad. Through them, countries such as Barbados, Jamaica, and others in the region are brought onto the global stage, allowing people around the world to experience Caribbean culture from miles away. This is evident in major cultural events like the Notting Hill Carnival in London and the West Indian Day Parade in New York, as well as through educational and cultural exchanges such as this one. These efforts showcase how globalization through the Caribbean diaspora can promote cultural appreciation, connection, and unity across borders. To close, globalization and social media continue to reshape the Caribbean culture, bringing both exposure and eradication. While they expand our global reach, they also pose the risk of diluting our identity and turning our cultural expressions into marketable products for external consumption. The commercialization of our culture prioritizes profit over authenticity, threatening the very essence of our heritage. Yet, amidst these challenges, social media also serves as a powerful tool to educate, archive, and share Caribbean culture. It is our responsibility as Caribbean people to protect and promote our culture with intention and pride. As a renowned Barbadian poet and cultural historian Kamal Brathwaite reminds us, culture is the memory of the people. Without it, the nation becomes a shadow. Thank you for your time.
Let's give another round of applause to our presenters. Thank you. Reminding us why our heritage is so important and why we need to safeguard it. So now we move on to our final Q&A session. As I said before, if you have a question, say it early because there's a limited amount of time.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamal White. I am from Wilmer's Boys School. So an evident issue within the Caribbean that I've identified is not only the threat of erasure from globalization, but by the conflict between diverse ethnic groups in the Caribbean countries. How can we better work together to promote our cultures and traditions with equity, especially among our youth? Additionally, how can we promote our cultures with each other to ensure a shared appreciation of one another and the continuity of our heritage?
Okay, thank you for that question. So I'll first tackle the latter of the question, which was how can we promote an equal appreciation for everyone's culture? I think that is a great point to pose because a lot of us would know that in terms of social media, Jamaica is seen as the capital of the Caribbean, and we acknowledge that the other Caribbean islands are not given much of a spotlight or time to really showcase who they are as people. So in terms of allowing for an equal promotion, again referring to this program, programs like these can really aid in doing so because we foster regional growth, we grow our bonds regionally, because an important thing to note is that as much as we are all within the same region, we are not as connected as we should be, and it's very hard. One of the speakers earlier mentioned that it was a tall task to get the Bajans here to Jamaica, and I don't believe that it should be a tall task, because that is something that all Caribbean countries should be working towards, which is fostering growth and development throughout the entire region instead of simply putting certain countries on a pedestal while the others are falling behind. Now, in terms of ethnicities, Jamaica, our motto is out of many, one people, but we don't act as though we are one people in many cases, unless of course someone's attacking Jamaica online. So in order to facilitate this relationship between ethnicities, I think we could promote more cultural programs. So like we have Jamaica Day recognized in schools, but something that I appreciate Campion has, we have Heritage Day, which is that different cultures can come in their attire and their appropriate wear to not only showcase Jamaican culture, but also Indian culture, African culture, European culture. So it's not simply one culture that is getting a constant spotlight, but various cultures are getting the opportunity to show their food, their dance, their dress. And as I mentioned in my points, it would also decrease ignorance about these cultures, and we wouldn't turn up our nose at something that seems unfamiliar. So to summarize, I definitely believe that we should promote more cultural programs that can allow for all heritages and cultures to take the stage, because no culture is more important than the other, and everyone deserves to feel recognized and acknowledged in the space that they live in. So yeah, our motto again is out of many, one people, so we should band together to work to ensure that we can have these events and promote these events in a significant way that is to the betterment of our country and the region as a whole. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. To you guys. So in your presentation, you guys would have stated that there's a lot of things, especially in Jamaican culture, that's dying out because we don't know how to share it, or a good way to share it with the younger generation. In your opinions, as the four youth that are sitting there, what are some ways that we can? Because a lot of Jamaican things still happen. It's just that the younger generation is not interested in showing up.
I would say that I find often when there's different spaces that may be, as you said, there's still spaces that promote Jamaican culture. Oftentimes they may not appeal to everyone in terms of the way that it's presented. We have to make sure that, if anything, we can have spaces that may appeal to those who are old or those who are middle-aged, but also ones that target the youth. And the truth is, oftentimes I've been to seminars that may target the youth, but can be quite boring. So I would call to the adults, maybe reach out to teenagers, younger children, figure out what interests them, and that would allow us to find the best way to present this information to us. Because of course we wouldn't present, or we wouldn't share our culture to a child in the same way that we share it into an adult.
So just to quickly add on to what Chloe was saying, when we are trying to promote these events, a lot of times it's the older generations, like the millennials, who are heavily involved in that process. But I think we should more so include the teenagers and youth, because they know each other, they know what they'll watch. So instead of excluding them when you're trying to actively appeal to them, you should involve them in the process, because then you'd get more productive and efficient outcomes, which would then cater to the youth more, instead of a bunch of adults trying to do dances that they think would appeal to the youth, but then it doesn't really come up to much of fruition in the end. So involve the youth in that process if you want to reach out to the youth, and then you should get better results.
All right, let me clarify. I wasn't referring to per se the seminars that are held in our culture. I'm looking at things that, for example, Grand Gala. You barely find youth going to Grand Gala. Youths are in Grand Gala participating, they're dancing, they're singing, but then the wider youth, if they're not participating, they're not showing up. So things like that. We still have donkey races, and we try to bring in the youth. Youths don't want to see that. Youths don't want to be a part of it. So not per se the seminars, but the actual events in and of itself. How can the older generation help to target the younger generation? And I don't want you to use the including them, because we do. They are a part of Grand Gala. They are a part of all of these things. It's the wider generation that aren't taking part I'm referring to.
Okay, so, okay, I'll attempt that again. So, just to clarify, you're saying that we have these events, and it's not necessarily the talking, it's the actual events that we are promoting, but they're not really coming out to them. Okay, that's a very good question. All right, so I'll take it from this point. When I was on TikTok recently, I saw that someone of your generation was saying that nowadays we don't have a lot of events specifically catered to the youth. While we may involve them, they're not specifically catered. And I know you said that we shouldn't really touch on including them because they are included, but are they really included to the extent that they wish to be included? Because what if they are involved in the process, but they're not helping in an area that they believe could actually get to their peers? And also, I think the issue is promoting and keeping up to the trends today, because I don't feel like a lot of youth would want to participate in donkey races. But at the same time, it's also that I feel like we could include more events and actually promote these older events in a way that the youth would find appealing. Nowadays, we've been using more so songs and dances to try and reach out to them more. But I'll pass to Zahira because that really stumps me. I'm not gonna lie.
Thank you for your question. To answer your question, I think we'd have to use, I think it comes back to what I said of social media being dominated by the Western media. So yes, I'm not saying that you're not including the youth, because I'm pretty sure whoever the organizers are doing so. However, when it comes to promoting certain things, I think it's best to use social media, but then it also poses an issue of what the youth are watching now are things mostly coming from up north. Things like brain rot and certain terms and things like that. So it would be, I understand your frustration, and it is something we should work to tackle, but it's something that would be a bit harder due to the dominant influence of the north.
Testing. Thank you. Okay. I am Brianna Burnett from the St. Andrew High School for Girls, and my question is, do you believe that the promotion and creation of Caribbean multimedia and Caribbean creativity involving Caribbean culture would help to spread it among children? Because when you think about it, a lot of Caribbean culture, like deeper parts of it, it comes from overseas. Like the stereotype that we smoke weed or wagwan, bumper, those things. Most of those stereotypes come from overseas media, like their movies and their TV shows. Do you think that creating our movies and our TV shows would help to combat this thing?
Yes, definitely. I want to say that it's important for us when we're creating shows specifically that we're trying to target a large amount of people, not just people in the Caribbean. We have to make sure that they're of a certain quality. I don't want to sound unkind, but oftentimes when we have Caribbean cartoons, the quality doesn't, or the videos don't seem as appealing, the colors aren't as bright as American media. Now, of course, we don't have as much funding, but the truth is, until we're able to invest in keeping the standard the same, people are not going to gravitate to something with duller colors, where it looks as though maybe it was just drawn on a little paper. We have to make sure that we keep up with the quality of the North or the quality of the Americas, Europe, in order for everyone and for the youth especially to want to watch it. It has to seem as appealing. So that's why I would say maybe the government, different organizations should invest in making sure that when we do produce television, when we produce shows, when we produce TikToks, videos, that it is of the quality of the media that we already consume, maybe American TV shows, American cartoons, so that it doesn't seem like maybe we're sacrificing quality for Caribbean.
Good afternoon, everyone. To our panelists, I am asking, how do we balance the commercialization of our culture as Caribbean people with also sharing and maintaining our written and oral traditions?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question again, please?
So, in regards to what is shared, especially on social media, in regards to our Jamaican culture, Caribbean culture in general, how do we balance that with also sharing our oral and written traditions that we would have maintained for many years?
When I was doing research for my speech, a lot of the articles that I found, they spoke about how certain aspects of our culture were deemed, I guess, as more interesting. So those aspects were picked okay, let me use the specific example of the reggae dance hall versus the mento, which is I read was Jamaican folk music. So what often happens is that we choose to pick the more exciting aspects of culture, what the government may deem would be more interesting to tourists, and we only promote that aspect. And what happens is that other parts are forgotten, and then eventually only the older people remember it. And the truth is, us as young people need to make more of an attempt to reach out to the older generations and to learn as well. That's a call for us. But what needs to happen is that we have to make sure that we don't focus on what just seems shiny and bright about what's all shiny about our culture. We have to make sure that we highlight every single aspect. So we have to make sure that we don't allow certain things to be forgotten. We have to, instead of just focusing on, I'll just stick to the dance hall and reggae, instead of just focusing on that, we have to make sure that we continue to share songs that may have been a mental. We have to make sure that we continue to promote spooge in Barbados and not just the bashment soca. That's what's important. Not just focusing on what may bring in the most revenue, but focusing on what is truly us, what's truly Caribbean, and what's truly a part of our culture, not just what brings in the most money.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Hyland. Good afternoon. My name is Chris Hyland, and I'm here representing Harrison College. And I was wondering how y'all think globalization has changed the way Caribbean people view their own culture.
Okay, thank you for that question. That was largely what I researched, and I think globalization has both changed Caribbean culture for the good and for the bad. In terms of the positive effects of globalization, once again, it allows for us to come in contact with various cultures across the globe, not just within the Caribbean region or ones we would have experienced in Jamaica. And I think in experiencing these cultures, we also learn to be more open-minded and accepting of other individuals. And we also incorporate some aspects of their culture into our own, which further emphasizes our country's motto, out of many, one people. So in regards to that, globalization has helped us be more open and accepting, and it also helps to hybridize our own culture because we don't approach things from one viewpoint anymore. We take other stances and other approaches to it, which I think further, it allows for a deeper understanding of our culture on a whole. And in regards to the negative aspects of globalization, I strongly believe that Jamaica is becoming extremely Americanized because of the great influence of social media. I mean, for example, using Campion as an example, we have Red and White Day in January, and I kid you not, there are so many individuals who come in this same red and black plaid pants. They look like pajama pants, and I saw those first online in America, and now every Red and White Day, more and more people show up in these clothing. And that's not to say that it's bad to replicate some of what we see online, but to the extent of erasing ourselves in the process, that's going too far in my personal opinion. Also, the fact that every time America has a trend, it's like, give it a few weeks and it comes to Jamaica. Even like, okay, even Clock It, for example, as fun as that is, it comes to Jamaica, but you can ask these individuals about the latest trends and the latest sayings, but ask them about an old proverb like, okay, ask them about an old proverb. Yeah, I'm an example. Actually, guys, I was raised with my grandma. I can give you one. When planted one, did it shoot? Okay, chicken Mary, hawk the near. If you want good, your nose have to run. Like those proverbs, if you ask youth about our proverbs, like I just hesitated, you know there will be an hesitation. Like we're not going to be able to take it off the top of our heads, right? So in that sense, there is a present erasure that we genuinely need to start trying to mitigate, because it's getting to a point where I saw on TikTok there was bandana, and as we know, we Jamaicans know bandana is part of our culture, but there were Jamaicans in the comments asking what is bandana and which country is this from, and I could not believe my eyes actually. So long story short, there are both positive and negative impacts of globalization on the Caribbean, and we need to work on mitigating the negatives. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Janae McDonald, and I'm from Campion College. And I heard the speakers elaborate further on the issue of commercialization. However, I was wondering what we as ordinary citizens could do to, improve our cultural image, especially in a positive light, when most of the content about us on social media tends to only go viral if it portrays us in an exploitative or a stereotypical manner. So, for example, carnival or beautiful yet expensive and expansive costumes, rather than the origins on transmutation and differences of festivals in different countries.
Honestly, I think the best thing to do is to be persistent. We have to push the positive aspects of our culture so much. We have to be like an annoying bee in their ear that they can't just focus on the stereotypical parts, like what Rihanna has said in her speech about every Jamaican being Rasta. We have to continue to promote the positive aspects of our culture, the true aspects of our culture, until it genuinely becomes annoying, and and the Western world, or even some people in the Caribbean who may be ignorant, have no choice but to ignore it. That's what I think.
Okay, yeah. So just to wrap it up, we need to embrace all aspects of our culture and not just the ones that we think will go viral, because in doing so, we push and lean into harmful stereotypes. And I think if we actually put more of what makes us Jamaican, our music, how we bond together as people, yeah, we would have better commercialization and there would be a better understanding of our culture worldwide, instead of when tourists come to Jamaica, they say certain words because they think they'll look good in our eyes. So, yeah, just promote everything and not just the parts.
This is the last question,
Okay.
by the way.
Japan has shown us that capitalism and culture can live side by side without any loss. You go to Japan, Japan is Japan, is Japan, is Japan. Do we see in the Caribbean that social media can be a tool of a new form of colonialism?
Okay, to make sure I understand your question, you're saying that you're asking if social media could be seen as a new form of colonialism, correct? Right. So I do believe, so yes, as I mentioned in my speech, there is a very dominant presence of America or other countries in our culture to the point where we probably want to adapt it because it's seen as positive. Not taking away from the positive of social media. Yes, it can help put our culture out there, but at what cost? It also falls back on the entire thing of, yes, we have Heritage Week or Heritage Day in lots of schools, but that's it. We don't have many more educational programs that would teach our youth about our culture in that sense. So therefore, when we are seeing things on social media, new trends, and we're adapting it, we are just taking what's given to us. We're not remembering or retaining anything that is ours, whether it's Bajan or Jamaican or anywhere else in the Caribbean. So it is seen as a new form of colonialism if the government or us, as our current age of 17, 18, we're not actively educating ourselves about different proverbs, like Rihanna said, or just having different programs. And I do think we should start, if we were to start a program of educational programs, we should start at the youngest of the young, kindergarten, basic school, so that they have knowledge and they know of our culture, to ensure that the new tool of that social media is not necessarily seen as the new tool of colonialism, so that we're continuing to be true to ourselves and who we are as Caribbean people.
Okay, I'm gonna keep this very short, I promise. Here's what I think. I do believe or agree that consuming large amounts of American media or Western media can be seen as a form of colonialism, but in terms of social media itself, in terms of the individual apps, I believe that we as Caribbean people, we can use it differently, or we can use it to promote our own culture. We don't have to necessarily follow the same trends as the Americans do, or follow the same trends that the British do. But social media is a tool that we can use down here to promote our culture. Yes, I do believe that consuming large amounts of American media, British media, can lead to some form of indoctrination. But once we as Caribbean people recognize that this is a very real possibility, once we're all educated, this is something that can happen, we can then use social media to our benefit and use it so that maybe we have more Caribbean people on our For You page. I think Rihanna gave the example of Kyle Boss. That way we're not necessarily only taking in American media or British media. I'm finished.
Thank you to all our presenters. You can take a seat now. I'm sure that everybody enjoyed the presentations and the Q&A sessions. I know we had some very vigorous and very thought-provoking questions, so I want to thank our audience for being so attentive. Now, as we move on to the final section of this program, I invite some dancers to provide a cultural presentation on the stage.
This will be a mix of both Harrison and Campion students, so let us make them welcome.
Whoa, yenge mama, give me yenge. Whoa, yenge mama, give me yenge. Why, give me yenge mama, give me yenge. Whoa, yenge mama, give me yenge. Whoa, yenge mama, give me yenge. Why, give me yenge mama, give me yenge. Whoa, yenge mama, give me yenge. Whoa, yenge mama, give me yenge. Why, give me yenge mama, give me yenge. Position the queen and set the pawn and start on some like Decepticon. Anytime delegates have a discrepancy, we'll have your attention with some long weapons. Like vision upon the attack mission, coalition of politician get switch on. If you look in the face of the newly born, the face malnutrition. Alright. Yeah. Movement of the people. Wait, heal out. Get up and dance alive again. John Walker, Hilbert, Stacy. People fight again. So they can dance on fraternity. Do what you feel like. Yep, no fight. Let's have a everybody jump in the people. Who already dance up? Get up your own fruit. Lava show them the parachute. Parachute, parachute. Everybody feel you do the parachute good. You drop on the ground, then you do your thing boom. Hey, John, show them the chaplain, yeah. Chaplain, chaplain. Bogle go and give them gold and rise again. Yeah. John, Bogle give up. We will find again. John, she said, yep. Do what you feel like. Now fight Jamaica. It's a free dance and fraternity. John and Bogle, give them the dance at Monday. From every dance a classroom. John with the road, a Bogle with the groove. Sweep them up fast class, I go start soon.
Wow, what was the only thing that I can see? I think that deserves another round of applause. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And under this theme, you see us bridging our borders. They only came here this week, and look at what they were able to do.
They learned that in a day, guys. The Barbadians, they learned it in a day, and they did so well. Let's give them another round of applause. Okay, so we're back to the boring stuff now. We're gonna close out with the thank yous. We're gonna move into the school song, and then we're gonna ask all our distinguished guests and visiting schools to head to the back for refreshments. Campionites, please sit and do not go for refreshments until the visitors have gotten. The presenters are allowed to go and get food as well. So let us comment with the thank yous, then the school songs, and then we'll close.
So we're now concluding this portion and the entire program. I ask that you give an,
We want to say first thank you to our principal, Dr. Lavere Henry, teachers Dr. Corbin, and Miss Kenny Folks, and more, as well as all of our facilitators and chaperones whose steadfast guidance and encouragement have made this event a success.
We once again extend our deepest gratitude to our general sponsors, the Jamaica Tourist Board, Mystic Mountain, Bob Marley Foundation, Honey Bun, Jamaica Biscuit Company, Coldfield Manufacturing, LP Azar, Office of the Children's Advocate, Chaka Tours, and Caribbean Airlines for their invaluable contributions.
To our incredible presenters and performers whose talent, insight, and dedication have enriched today's experience and left us truly inspired and educated, your collective efforts have made this summit both meaningful and memorable.
To our special and distinguished guests, Barbados Council Honorable Consul General, Mr. Winston Bailey, former chairman of the board of Campion College, Mr. Anton Thompson, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to share your wisdom and insightful words. And to our audience,
we express heartfelt thanks for your presence and attentiveness throughout the entire event. Your support, your enthusiasm, and encouragement and participation have helped to create an atmosphere of unity and inspiration nationally and regionally. We are truly grateful that you chose to experience this youth summit with us.
Now, to close our summits, I invite you to stand as we play the school songs of Harrison College and Campion College.
sing we the song of the school that we love, shows we its honor again. Juniors below to the seniors above, join in the rousing refrain. For it's Harrison, Harrison, oh for Harrison, those who will never give up. All in the run of it, all for the fun of it, Harrison, Harrison, oh. Heart to our shout in the hours of our birth, come many echoes afar. Bounding from lands in the ends of the earth, we too of Harrison are. For it's Harrison, Harrison, oh for Harrison, those who will never give up. All in the run of it, all for the fun of it, Harrison, Harrison, oh. Hear from the distant recesses of space, voices of those who have died, doing their best for their land and their race. They are our glory and pride. For it's Harrison, Harrison, oh for Harrison, those who will never give up. All in the run of it, all for the fun of it, Harrison, Harrison, oh. Memories bright of the hours that we spent, wielding the pen or the bat. Comrades together shall last with content, nothing can rob us of that. For it's Harrison, Harrison, oh for Harrison, those who will never give up. All in the run of it, all for the fun of it, Harrison, Harrison, oh. For it's Harrison, Harrison, oh for Harrison, those who will never give up. All in the run of it, all for the fun of it, Harrison, Harrison, oh.
Here endeth the summit. Thank you guys for coming out.
Harrison, Campionites and Harrisonians, we have some work to do before you depart today. We have some exchanges to take place, remember. So please don't leave this space. We need to be able